Is it possible for the best of the ACC and the best of the Pac-12 to consolidate, or the Pac to consolidate the best of them for survival purposes?
3 months ago, I would have said no. Now, I think everything has to be on the table. And whether it's an actual merger, conference merger, or whether it's some sort of competitive agreement in terms of scheduling each other so that you've got that additional big game revenue. And to your point, Antoine, it does only work with the top of the conference. No one's gonna fill the stadium to see Boston College against Washington State. I feels like I keep picking on Boston College, but you get my point. But look, if there's a Clemson versus Washington or whatever the case may be, then sure, it's possible. Like I said, I don't know if there is the temerity with George Kliavkoff right now to do it. Kliavkoff, the Pac-12 has got a boatload of problems as we sit here today. And I mean a boatload. They have no TV contract for starting next year yet. All of the ADs were talking publicly about it'd be done by end of March. We're now near end of May and it isn't done. ESPN this week said that they are out as a potential tier one partner. They'll still be in the mix somewhere, but as a tier one, you have Kliavkoff wants a grant of rights because he's trying to hold the conference together. He's looking at a 3, 4, maybe 5-year grant of rights deal. Washington has already said, yeah, we got issues with that until we see what the TV contract is. So there's kind of a chicken and egg, which is going to happen first. Are they going to get a grant of rights agreement, if not in writing, based on what the TV contract is, or do they have to have the TV contract first? You've got a problem with the value of the TV contract because you've got to replace the LA schools. And to this point, everybody has talked about San Diego State, and then whether it be SMU, Tulane, whoever else, you've got a problem with San Diego State right now, a very significant one. In order for them to leave in time for next season, the 2024 season, their buyout from the Mountain West is $17 million right now. That's fine. On July 1st, it triples to $51 million. That's a problem. And especially when you're talking about, you may not have the TV contract done by then. The TV networks want to know who they're going to get. Are we having 10 schools? Are you going to, who are the replacements? What markets is it going to be? None of the schools want to sign a grant of rights until they see the TV deal. There's a significant problem. And while this sounds tertiary to Kliavkoff's issues, more financial problems, the Pac-12 has now moved out of its very expensive San Francisco headquarters, which they were paying just an unruly sum of money for every month because Larry Scott was convinced that would bring in some great sponsors. It brought in none. And they've kind of broken everything up. A lot of people working remotely from home. The production studios are out in the suburbs now because they're going to be dealing with streaming companies once the Pac-12 network folds at the end of next year. The problem, though, is what they did to the building when they moved in. It was an office building that they were leasing, but they built TV studios, edit bays, production studios. Mark, you know what that looks like. In your days at ESPN, you know what it looks like. The company that owns the building now wants $10 million in the contract from the Pac-12 for putting the offices back the way they were and into functioning office building. And the Pac-12 is asking all the schools to chip in on that. So, there's $1 million per school. It doesn't sound like much, except you don't know what's coming down the pike for a new TV contract. Right now, the estimates are it could be 25 to 30 million for a new TV contract. That's a $15 million per year haircut from what you previously had. The Pac-12, owe Comcast $50 million because you were overbilling them for your delivery on Comcast over a 10-year period, and an audit years after the fact found that out. all the schools are having to chip in to get Comcast their money back. Washington State, a couple days ago, the president of the school issued a statement, hiring freeze on everything, including athletics, no unnecessary expenditures. Because they're a public school, they are preparing the state for the budget that's about to come that's going to show a deficit. So they put a freeze on everything, which I guess if you're a coach, you've got job security because they can't afford the buyout. Kliavkoff has got a lot of problems right now. And to Antoine's point, it would go a long way to create some sort of at least competitive partnership with the ACC, at least the top end of the conference.
And I've got so many directions to go here, Tony. I want to respect your time, so just let me know when you need to leave. We do have some other questions coming in here, but to wrap up the Pac-12 portion of this, because when we had you on last week, we let you go, and at that point, I thought, man, I would love to get Tony in on this Pac-12 deal because I've had so many various thoughts about this. So I'll just conclude with this: the optics, to me, don't favor the Pac-12 for a few obvious reasons. Number one, it appears as though, and this is easy for me to say at this point, that instead of waiting until the networks filled up inventory from other conferences, they should have been proactive, knowing, I think Kliavkoff overestimated the value of the conference. They should have been proactive to get to stake their claim with these networks, first and foremost, even if it wasn't at the number that he wanted. Number two, in negotiations, you know better than I do, whether personally involved or observing it from afar, the longer it drags on, the more vulnerable the lesser of the two parties is. Because the Pac-12 needs media partners. These media partners, they don't need the Pac-12.
Correct.
They can just continue on with their business. And sure, we'd love to have Pac-12 football. It'd be a nice little addition for Apple TV or for Amazon, but they're not in the business of Pac-12 football or college football. They're running a business and doing just fine without the Pac-12. So so the level of desperation or this situation just, to me, is just escalating by the week.
I think all of those things you say are completely true. I mean, this is, the ghost of Larry Scott, when we remember that ESPN went to him and said, we want to partner with you on the Pac-12 network. We'll take over all of the operating costs. We'll take over all of the overhead in exchange for revenue share, where we're going to get, I think it was 65%. And Larry Scott said, no, we're better off going it on our own. And the conference continues to pay the price for that, because ESPN would have been a partner for decades, right? In the Pac-12 network was, Larry, for those not privy to everything the Pac-12 network was, it was not, when you watch the SEC network, you have your channel there, the SEC network. The Pac-12 network was a bunch of regional stations with then a mothership network, if you will. There was the Pac-12 network LA, Pac-12 network Arizona, Pac-12 network Northwest, all of these things. And then the actual Pac-12 network itself. Scott was demanding that any of the carriers, whether it be Dish Network or Uverse or AT&T or whomever, carry all of them. You couldn't just get the network. You had to carry all of them. And DirecTV never signed on. And then when AT&T bought DirecTV, Larry Scott figured, all right, we're going to be good because Uverse has it and AT&T owns Uverse. Now we'll get it on DirecTV. AT&T went the other way. They pulled it off Uverse and never signed in with DirecTV. So the hubris with which he operated continues to haunt the conference. I think Kliavkoff came in from the entertainment industry, the sports entertainment industry, having negotiated a lot of deals, working at MGM Resorts, figuring, it was fixable. I don't think he knew all of the problems that were behind the curtain. That's on him. That's a due diligence issue. And that's a little bit, at least a little bit on him. That's a lot of bit on Scott. And then Kleofkoff got blindsided by the UCLA and USC departures. He absolutely did not see it coming. He was told the morning the decision, well, it wasn't even announced, it was leaked. John Wilner from the San Jose Mercury News got it out there. Kleofkoff found out about 2 hours before that, and then the schools came out that night and acknowledged it, with their announcements. So not much has gone right in the Kleofkoff era. It's been all of 2 years, not even 2 full years, year and a half. Some of it his doing, a lot of it not his doing, but he should have been jumping, to your point, at any inkling, any interest, any sit down, any conversation with any TV network. He should have been the first one at the table.
Yeah,
because he did overvalue what was left. You can't replace UCLA and USC with San Diego State and SMU. It's not the same thing. Even within the Dallas market, yeah, it's the Dallas media market, and SMU is fine, but you can't assume that SMU owns the Dallas media market. It does not. It's still, even though it's far away from Austin, there's still a lot of UT fans in the city of Dallas. Heck, there are a lot of TCU fans, from Fort Worth hedging their way, over in Dallas. You cannot replace it with San Diego State. It's a nice program. It's a commuter school that, built a new stadium, and it can expand, I think, to 50,000. And it's nice, but it's nowhere near the media draw. San Diego is not the media draw that Los Angeles is. So again, you're putting Band-Aids on a gaping wound, but that's what he's got to work with right now is Band-Aids.